What's up, everyone? Welcome to Agents of Fandom. I am Sean Mott, and today I'm joined by Shane Belcourt, the series creator of Amplify. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. I feel like you've reprogrammed my brain with that opening graphic display where I'm like, what was hidden between all those things? I only say the truth.
Yeah, I'm fresh off the new Mission Impossible, which obviously deals with like an AI thing. So I feel you there, 100%. I get what you're saying. Totally with you there. Um, So I know Amplify is set to showcase not only Indigenous artists in front of the camera, but behind the camera as well. But I wanted to get to the root of what sparked the idea of this project in the beginning.
Yeah, I guess there was sort of like three kind of big ingredients. Number one is I'm a musician. I love music. I love being around musicians. I love the process of making music. It's just so that was, number one attraction to trying to create a show about music. The second one was watching Sonic Highways with Dave Grohl, the HBO series that he put together. That was he just traveled around and wrote songs, but each place was he was in. And then the third one was watching Sigur Rós when they were doing that live concert, and they're just in the middle of Iceland making music, on their their lands. And then I thought, well, if I was ever to make a music documentary series, wouldn't it be amazing to work with other fellow Indigenous musicians who would be inspired by something that was from their Indigenous world, a book, a lens, a painting, a poem, a teaching, a piece of their community landscape, and say, I want to write a new song based on that thing. And then we would follow the track of them, writing the song as an artist in the studio. We would then sort of have an interview with them about why they chose their inspiration, like how it means them, how it connects to them. And then the last ingredient that I wanted to sort of get into is if we have, like, say, a book, let's speak to the author, like about what are the key ingredients of this book, like what makes it work and why is it resonating with people and why did they write the book? And then once you understand kind of really what the song is about, you end the episode with like, well, here's a music video of that song that they wrote.
That's awesome. I'm glad you answered it that way because that's as I was watching the episodes, I was like fascinated by the format of it, of how it laid out and how it was this kind of like little gateway into the artist, but it wasn't like giving everything away. It was like the perfect introductory thing for that artist. Like if you've never heard of them before, obviously, or anything, like that's kind of the whole point is to show this music to people who probably haven't heard it, or if they have, it's kind of like a more in-depth thing. But I was like, wow, what a cool way to frame it, because obviously there's been a million music documentary type things over the years. I mean, I grew up watching like Behind the Music and stuff like that, but this felt so fresh in a way. And, it's like short, it's easy, but it's like impactful at the same time. Um, I do want to get into how you discover the artists you want to feature within this. Like I remember growing up and in my day for finding new music, it was all like Pure Volume and MySpace and I guess Fuse when that was a thing.
Right.
Uh, Kind of the post MTV thing, kind of during MTV, but for like alternative music, Fuse was such like a big gateway for me as like a teenager. So what is your process of finding talent for Amplify?
From the very beginning of, thinking about the show, it was like if we tried to do, like, to your earlier point and how it feeds into this one, if we tried to do a show of just like, let's find famous people and do biographies about them. And that was one of the discussion points of a music doc series. I was like, I'm not interested in that. Like, it just feels like an EPK. I don't really, you know, it's more fun to watch an artist be surprised by something, and to react to something. And in the creative reactionary place, you then come to know the other little bits of your biography, almost, unintended is a better way that I like to sort of feel an artist and who they are. And so when we thought that was the first piece of it, and then it infected the next one, which is, what artists are we going to get? And if it's like, well, if we just limit ourselves to household names, even household names of the Indigenous community, is that really what, we are going to be surprised by? So why don't we have a mix of sort of established mid-career and emerging artists throughout every season? And in that way, over the course of the show, everybody's equal because they're just a songwriter reacting to something that inspires them. And what do they make at the end of it? And that kind of like common ground of every songwriter's challenge, was a really interesting place to start and think about the show. So then, okay, well, who do we choose? Being a musician, being in the community, it was easy to always have like, oh, I got like 6 or 7 names for an episode potential. And then the other producer, Jason Ryle, who I work with, he's like, oh, I have another 10 or 20 that I want to add to it. We'd work with associate producers Claudia Skunk and Adam Phipps, and they go, oh, have you heard this? Have you heard that? So then basically from everybody being out in their lives, enjoying music, listening to music, you just sort of get this big database of names. And over 3 seasons, we just have like more. It just keeps getting added more and more. And it's because of the approach of emerging, mid-career, and established that we have a larger pool. And the great thing with the broadcaster was because they're all treated with the same approach, it wasn't like, oh, we're going to spend 80% of the budget on the established artists, and then the mid-career or establishing or emerging are going to get like no money for theirs. Everybody gets the same amount of shoot days, the same amount of budget, so that equal footing across the show allowed everybody to just kind of do what they do on a very personal level.
That's awesome. That's so cool to hear. I feel like that's you don't hear that kind of approach very often, and especially in like making something that's like meant to be watched and stuff like that. So that's very, very cool. A common theme in the episodes is having to balance stay connected to one's family and then chasing their dreams, and how both can be a struggle, and maintaining both in that journey. Why was it important to you to have these familiar stories interwoven throughout the episodes?
To be honest with you, we leave what they're going to be inspired by. So every episode, it's an anthology series. Every episode's a different songwriter. Every episode is directed by a different director. The directors are paired with the songwriter because they share at least the same homeland and our specific indigenous culture, whether that be Blackfoot or Cree or Métis or whatever it might be. They're all from the same, place. So that enables them both to kind of like really dig in together about what's making sort of their community or their lives kind of work. And they kind of jam together over what their episode would be about and how it would look and feel. And then myself and Jason, as the showrunners and producers, kind of respond and push and prod and ask questions and try to really enhance as much of what they're kind of thinking, the director and the songwriter, how they're going to make something together. And as they do that, we are just responding to what they're coming up with. So this season where it's sort of, it emerged with all these interconnected episodes, but yet they were islands of themselves, which was very bizarre, right? It's really like, oh, seems to be a zeitgeist amongst the Indigenous arts community right now, that people are sort of feeling this amazing resurgence on the personal level, on the community level, of who they are and where they're from. But as that happens to now travel well, and people can leave those communities to go, which is not a new phenomenon, but it's a phenomenon, specific sense of the music having in arts having such a profound place in sort of the world arts community and scene. People, I think, are reflecting on like, wow, to achieve, like the Tia Wood episode as an example, to achieve and to get to the place I want to get to as an artist, as a creative, and working with different people and exploring and expanding my artistry, as Tia Wood's episode showcases, I have to leave home. I need to go to LA, and I need to go to these big urban centers, and to not be back in Saddle Lake kind of affects that feeling of like, well, that's the place, that's the grounding, that's the place that gave me my voice, that gave me Crystal Shawanda's episodes, the same thing, being from Aquimiquong. These are these places that really made me. And that's this thing that people really want to hear. But in order to hear it and to develop it and to expand it, they're required to sort of go to these other urban centers. At the same time, always, if you see in every episode, they're always returning home. They know what their roots and anchors are, and they have to be nurtured. It's not like you grow and then you leave. It's like it's a constant flow of back and forth, of intertwining their sort of bigger city dream lives with their roots of where they're from and who their people are. And it was surprising that so many episodes kind of touched into that stuff. It wasn't programmed.
Wow. That's really cool. It's cool when you have something that's kind of planned singularly, as a whole, but it comes together as a whole. I guess it's just a magic of that kind of stuff, right?
It is.
In the first episode of season 3 that focuses on Shane Ghostkeeper, he talks about how his partner and following the path of music and not being in his family business, and really going for like what he dreamed for instead of settling, it kind of it saved his life. So I wanted to know if you had a personal example where music saved your life.
Um, it's the funny thing about there's no end game with music. Who
No.
knows where it starts within somebody, and who knows, like, oh, I made music because this was the moment. It just kind of, you grow up around people who are singing to you as a baby. You're in the womb, there's sounds, there's music, the music of uh of the emotion of love, the music of fear, like all these things that are feelings that you're trying to find a way to express, and music is this great way to get into it. So, like, what comes first? Who the hell knows? Where does it really originate? Who knows? And what I love about music, in storytelling in general, or any of the arts, my sister's a painter, for example. What's the end game? What's the, like, oh, and then when I make this one song or this one painting, then I can now never do it again. You know what I mean? Like, you could choose to be like, oh, I don't want to do it again. But the idea of exploring yourself into music is an endless sort of dialogue with you and the people you make music with. So for me, music saves me in the sense of answering your question. I mean this honestly. Every day I'm listening to music. Every day I'm over there jamming, like I'm on my little loop pedal, or I'm going to it. It's an ongoing practice, because it's sort of, that's my emotional place. That's my therapy. That's my longest friend. And so to have that dialogue within yourself and with others in a place that doesn't require anything other than, like, hey, let's just start and just make music together, it is the greatest ongoing gift to be able to be a part of it.
What a beautiful way to put music. That I don't think I've ever heard it described that way, but that was incredible. What an amazing way to describe it. Last question before we get out of here. Music has a way of connecting us to past generations, which we've talked about. This is kind of has been like the focal point of what you talked about in this season in particular. Were there moments where you got to learn about any music traditions you weren't aware of? And if so, what were some of your favorites?
Oh, what a great question. Um, oh man. The it's You could have no favorites in an anthology show, but I would say, I found the Darcy turning robe episode in this season, which is episode 4, which is not next Tuesday, it's the one after, or June, whatever. Um, they're all amazing episodes, but I'm always so profoundly moved by traditional singers. It's an idiom or a thing that, of course, you grow up around, but I don't know how to do it, and I don't make it, and I don't think about making it. But when you see somebody who's like so fully in our time now, but sort of echoing and bringing forth something that is an ongoing, the only way to learn that is with elders, is with previous carriers of the song. Anybody can go online, watch a YouTube video, learn how to play Little Wing, even though it was written in, whatever, 68. But to go in this kind of idiom, you have to spend time with people to have songs gifted to you, to learn how to properly make these songs. And when in the process of doing that, you're a part of community. And the only way to really perform these songs is within community itself also. Like, you are bound to learn and make and perform something with your people. And so it doesn't travel as glamorously as other idioms of music. And it's so it's such a profound thing to dedicate one's life to that kind of music making. It's almost like a monk, or something like that, in that way. And to see people where they start from and how they revitalize the core of themselves through that tradition, which is only gift giving to others, is an amazing way to rethink about, why do you make music? Who is it for? And what anchors you in making music? It can be such a crass thing at times, and it can be um, stressful within that commerce of music to, oh, I got a gig, and how am I going to pay the band and the touring? And that's real. But there's something about, like, I just make it, I learned it from this elder, and now I have to sing it at this gathering for the ceremony, this person passing from one world to the other. Like that kind of music making to me is kind of like, okay, I'm always learning about how they do it. I'm also revitalized to the idea of making gifts that have nothing to do with anything other than just the moment itself.
Wow, that is a really special kind of tradition and way of passing on music in a very special way. Before we completely sign off, I want please let the people know where they can watch Amplify, where they can find you on socials, if that's applicable. Let the people know all that stuff.
Right on, yeah. So the show Amplify and myself are on Instagram. Just look for Amplify, look for Shane Belcourt. There we are on the Instagram. Like my handle's Sab72, SAB72. And then the show itself, Amplify, is on APTN. And it's also on their app, their standalone app, the Lumi app. So you can watch it there. It's also playing on Air Canada flights. If you are flying in Canada or anywhere in the world in Air Canada, you'll see it on the TV shows. So you can see it in some of those places. And then, of course, there's stuff online here and there scattered about YouTube where you can watch music videos or behind the scenes and those kind of things. Just look up Amplify Indigenous music and you will find it.
Very awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you guys later.
Okay, thank you.